All right. Here we go. From the comfort of my sacred place, my sacred space. I think it's important for everyone to have a place like that. I will say this, life does take you on different journeys depending on who you are. For each person, it's a different experience. But having a place that is sacred to you, like for meditation, to contemplate your thoughts, to slow down your mind is important. Um, I'm not a proponent of emptying your mind. People that do meditation will promote that. Emptying your mind is not the best. Really, what we should do is slow down the mind, our thoughts, so that we can filter which ones truly we want to keep and the ones we don't want to keep. And I feel like if more people did that, we'd have a lot less uh, relational problems. And that's what we're going to talk about today, relationships uh, of all levels, whether they are friendships, familial, or even romantic. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to talk about relationships today, but from the perspective of the development of emotional intelligence. Let's get comfortable. I mean, I'm still adjusting to understanding this whole podcast mic, like how to position it, how to work with the camera, how to not lose my head my headphones because I have not wireless. I have headphones, but not the ones that go over your head. These because they have a longer cord and they're just better. And again, you know, just being authentic and sharing what's really happening here. And yeah, this is not a studio. This is actually my home. So this is my home place. I was going to do my podcast from a studio, but if I am promoting a message of authenticity and I am trying to get that perspective across, I felt one, it would be best to come from a place that truly represents me, and two, a space where I truly am comfortable, where I truly contemplate what I'm sharing, and three, actually own, you know, what I'm doing. I don't think people realize sometimes that when you get signed on for stuff or you sign up for things, people will then own you, and you got to be careful with that. So, and anybody in any part of the industry that is either social media or entertainment, if you follow their history long enough, you'll notice how they get to a point where they want to own their own stuff. Okay. So I'm here to share some enlightenment that can definitely help you because it has definitely helped me and a lot of other people that have come in contact with me in achieving a more happier and peaceful life. So, emotional intelligence, what are some factors that we need to focus on, or what factors are involved when it comes to the development of emotional intelligence, and why is this important? Especially now in the era where all of a sudden artificial intelligence is starting to show up and be more prominent, with virtual reality games and the metaverse. We have to be really mindful and apply discernment here because there's one thing that they're completely just kind of like blacking out slowly, and that is the value of emotional intelligence. If you notice, culture always tries to make a trend out of something that is not mentally healthy for people. I'll say it again. Culture will always try to make a trend out of something that is not mentally healthy for people. You know, take for instance social media apps, how they have become such a trend, no matter which one you use. They were developed with the intention of people being able to share pieces of their life with each other, with friends, with family in an entertaining way. Culture transformed it into a trend. And if you notice what's happening with people, social media apps are used for people to compare and contrast their life, compare and contrast what they do or do not have, represent themselves in a light that's not even the real life. It's not even the reality. Like I always laugh when I go on someone's, and I'll say Instagram mostly because I use Instagram a lot. Snapchat, I don't think that happens as much. And Facebook is different. You have to actually maybe go into a person's profile and read up their details of their account. But on Instagram, I always laugh at people's bio when they, on the bio, I feel like the more items a person lists about themselves, it only it gives an indication of of just the insecurities that lie within, you know? And again, that comes from exercising your emotional intellect in your mind. So understanding emotional intelligence and fortifying it for yourself, it only benefits your ability to listen to your intuition, benefits your ability to understand other people, benefits your ability to be more compassionate, more graceful, you know? So what do I mean about the social media application thing? People list like, I'm a designer, I'm a mentor, lifestyle coach, lifestyle influencer, engineer, chemist, IT professional, like they list like all their titles. Also, I am an enlightenment coach, and I just feel like, oh my God, I feel like I'm bombarded with information about a person um, that's truly unnecessary because people are not what they do. You know, people are not what they work in. People are who they are based on their character. So the more a person has to divulge their material accomplishments, the more insecure they're letting you know they are about themselves. So that's just a psychological key for you guys. Maybe you could use that with your, whoever you relate to, whether it be friends or family. Um, it's been proven psychologically that people that have to expose greatness too many times, they're actually hiding behind a cloud of feeling like they're not good enough within themselves, you know? And the same goes for the opposite. People that don't present a lot and actually don't showcase a lot, or even on their social media bio, they don't even like pinpoint a lot of different things. Um, because they're secure and they're comfortable in who they are, and they don't identify what they do with the value of who they are. That's really what that means. So here we go. Self-awareness, empathy, emotional regulation, social skills, motivation, self-reflection, and cultural awareness, along with practice and feedback. These are all factors that I've highlighted and actually saved on a document for myself. These are all factors that are basically, they contribute to the development of your emotional intelligence. Now, if you notice, I mentioned, 8 factors, right? Um, Here is the tidbit people need to remember. This takes time. To develop this, it takes time. So, in taking time, that means that you're going to have experiences, you're going to have things along the journey that are not going to go okay, and that's fine, you know? Um, is guilt and shame going to be part of the equation? Yes. Should you pay attention to it? No. Because guilt and shame are part of the equation momentarily. They're meant to exist momentarily for you to recognize what you need to correct. But they are not there to remain as your identity as you keep moving forward in life, because they will only hold you back. They will hold you back emotionally, they will hold you back developmentally in the physical aspect of your life, and they will hold you back also when it comes to, you know, uh, your spiritual development. So guilt and shame will exist. It's impossible when we do wrong, or something happens wrong, or things go wrong in our life, whether it's a relationship, a business deal, a job, I don't know, a test, an exam, a course, a car, driving your car, something that happens that you know that you're truly guilty for, or something that happens that you are ashamed that you did. It's impossible to run away from guilt and shame. It's supposed to be there momentarily. It's not supposed to stay with you. So, how do you get rid of it? How do you let go of guilt and shame? Well, that's why emotional intelligence is important. The more you develop that side of you, the more that you give that side of you time, you know, um, the easier it will be for you to let go of guilt and shame when those scenarios arise in your life. And so, guess what? It won't have control over you. And then it's impossible for the enemy, whether it's a person or whatever the enemy is for you, it's impossible for whatever that enemy is to actually have a stronghold on you for you and to hold you back, you know? So let's talk about self-awareness. I define self-awareness as being a fundamental aspect of emotional intelligence because it involves recognizing and understanding one's own emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and triggers. Developing self awareness allows individuals to better manage their emotions and make more informed decisions. Making more informed decisions. In order to make an informed decision, it means that you've had experience before to collect data, and that data that you've collected from that experience, you now apply in a future experience. So you need to have the horrible events of your life. You need to have the why does this happen to me uh, situations. Well, it happens to you because this means that in the future, as you go through things, you know, either it might happen again and you need to know what to do, or it might happen to somebody you care about and you may want to be the person to be there for them. You may be the only person that might be there for them. You know, that's another reason why it happens. Um, Self awareness is the first one on my list because it's the fundamental aspect of emotional intelligence. Being aware of yourself, be aware of how you talk to people, be aware of how you make others feel in your presence. So many times I feel like if people were more self aware, they would realize that how they're interacting with another person, whether it's a family member, a friend, or romantic interest, they'd conduct themselves with a little bit more respect. They would actually conduct themselves with more consideration because they would recognize that they're not really what I call, being 100. They're not really being 100 with those people. You know, they're being deceitful to get their own way, you know? So self-awareness is a fundamental aspect of emotional intelligence. It involves recognizing and understanding one's own emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and triggers. Um, I grew up, and I'm going to share a story so I can explain self-awareness from a perspective of just finally being comfortable with how you are. I grew up always wanting to do good, be good, impress my mom and dad, make my family proud of me, right? And I always felt like I had to behave or be a certain way, act a certain way. Um, and even with friends, I didn't grow up in the United States. Part of my childhood was in Europe, in Portugal, but also um, I felt like I needed to fulfill a certain role in a specific way with my family, and then some of their dreams that they had for me became, mine. But as I'm growing up, I'm realizing that it's not 100% what I want from my life, you know. Um, Also, at the same time, I grew up from a culture within a culture, the Portuguese. I love the culture, love the food. I had a great childhood. Don't regret it. I'm really thankful that my parents decided to raise their kids in Europe instead of here, and then brought us back to America. So I'm grateful for that. But in growing up in a traditional culture, and a lot of people from different cultures can relate because there's traditions in every culture. For for me, it was, kind of like taught or passed down, even if it wasn't directly with from my family, just in the cultural setting I was in, that, you go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, you meet someone, you fall in love, you get engaged, you get married, you have babies, and that's what life is, and that's what it should be. And yeah, that's great. It works for a lot of people. A lot of my friends ended up in that cycle, in that path, and it's worked for them. And some of them didn't. Um, I tried to fall into that path. I think I was attempting to fall into that path, and it propelled me into turning what was, now looking back, what was not such a great relationship, was partially toxic in a way because we were young, trying to turn it into a commitment, an actual relationship, because that's just the course of things. Um, I wasn't self-aware. I wasn't aware of the fact that I liked it or didn't like it. Is this something I want or don't want for my life? Do I see myself in this setup 5 years from now? Is this something I really want to do? And as a matter of fact, one of the things that awakened that for me was, as I was given an opportunity to go to medical school in Portugal, um, something happened with documentation because I was at that point coming from the States, from being out of Portugal for about a year or so. They needed some documentation proving that in order to give me access to the university. I couldn't provide it to them within the time and that they wanted, and this was still during the era where you would have to physically fly um, to Florida and then back to Portugal with the document in hand. So it was before the digital era, before signing PDFs and all that. I needed to physically provide a document that required my physical presence to get it signed in one country to the other. It was impossible. The deadline they gave me was really short. It was like a day or a day or two, a 2-day deadline, which you can't meet that when you're traveling across, overseas. So I just gave up. My big dream of going to medical school, something I always grew up envisioning would be my life. Also something that, was passed on to me from just the aspirations my family had for me. And I wanted to fulfill that because I wanted them to be proud of me. And it just also was a passion of mine. I love the medical field. I'm super into the sciences. Um, so it was just natural for me. I was attracted to that. But I didn't get entrance to the university in Portugal, and I got depressed. I got depressed. Why? I wasn't self-aware. I wasn't self-aware that that wasn't my aspiration. It wasn't truly my dream. It felt like it was, but it wasn't. And at that age, I was like 17 when this was happening. I wasn't self-aware of what I wanted for me. And it happens because you're young. Maybe you don't get it yet. So I didn't get access to the medical university in Portugal. Cut to, I come back to the States to be with my parents here, and in that course, I just decided to have a couple months off of school. I just didn't want to do college. I was just disappointed because I felt like the big aspiration my family had for me was gone. So what was the point? I needed a moment to recharge, you know? Okay, so then I finally decide to start my university life in the States. I become really successful academically in college, to the point that I get an amazing scholarship to Nova Southeastern University. As I'm doing that and I'm in the honor society, I'm in the Phi Theta Kappa group, and all these amazing things are happening to me. I'm getting different scholarships actually. Um, I'm about to finish uh, my bachelor's, and my scholarship was ongoing for the medical school. It was a scholarship to go to the medical school, medical program. So in what I couldn't get in Portugal, I was now getting in America a second time around, and I was at the door of making that decision to go to medical school at NSU in Florida, only to realize, no, you know what, I actually don't want it. Um, it took about 4 years for me to realize that it's not something I wanted for myself anymore. And yet life gave me a second shot at it. So why do I share this? I finally was starting to become self-aware that that's not the life I wanted for me. You know, why was that? Because I was at a point in my life where I realized, should I decide to marry and have kids, I want to be a person that's present for my family. I want to be a present mom. I want to be a present wife. Because again, I was coming from a traditional mindset in a way, but also at the same time, I was realizing that be going to medical school was not something I wanted anymore. You know, I was very much aware of that now, and I made a decision based on that awareness at that moment. You know, um, okay, so as you go through life, self awareness will allow you to make those decisions and not second guess yourself and also not feel guilty that you're making them. Because obviously, going to medical school, becoming a doctor, the pay is considerably fantastic, of course. However, if your heart's not in it, what's the point? I mean, I think people, what they don't really realize is that when you follow the flow of the current that has been passed on to you, if you are a fish in that current that starts to feel like this is not the current I want for me. I don't want to swim in this anymore. If you are a fish that starts to feel that way, then guess what? You're going to start to feel unhappy with your life. You're going to start to feel resentment with your life, and you're going to start to feel like you're boxed in. None of those factors right there that I just mentioned will allow you to feel peaceful in your life, because you'll be pissed off that you're doing stuff that's not even like what you truly want to do, you know? Life has a way of taking you to places where you're meant to fulfill your purpose. You just have to allow yourself the physical space and time and patience to be self-aware so that you make the decisions accordingly. Now, does that mean you're always going to make perfect decisions? No. But it definitely means that you'll make them more in line with what you're supposed to be doing rather than doing something just for the buck, for the money, because that's what everybody else does, you know? Even if it's not for the money, it's just what everybody else does. Everybody in my family always did this, or everybody did, so I'm going to do it too, you know? Um, Understand your emotions, understand your strengths is also important for your emotional intelligence development. Why? Because you might be in a position, and this is something that, you know, for a couple of years, I life coached people. I finally stopped doing that because it's emotionally draining. But I'm going to share some examples as I go through these factors from my life coaching experiences. There was um, two clients or two people I had actually. I coached them, and they felt like they were not following their passion. They were not pursuing their passion in their life, and they were feeling that that was growing resentment within them in relationship to their everyday life. Well, my job was to figure out how to help them get, past that feeling, to see life with a different perspective. And here's what came to me, and I realized it's just the answer to everyone's question when it comes to I need to chase my passion, I need to follow my passion. I shouldn't be doing this. That's not what I'm passionate about. No, you're fulfilling a purpose in your life, and the purpose is also that you have to provide for yourself. You have to be able to sustain yourself, be self-sufficient. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, whether, artistically or expression, or maybe you're passionate about motivating people, find a way to apply it where you're already at. I had this one client was a CEO, well, actually it was his own business, and he just was unhappy. And he was doing pretty okay, and he was well off, but he wanted to be, um, he wanted to become a motivational speaker. He wanted to quit one thing to be another. He wanted to become a Tony Robbins all of a sudden. And I said, okay, every single person can't be a Tony Robbins, you know? And life coaching doesn't always mean that you're going to be a Tony Robbins or that you're going to be an Eckhart Tolle, for instance, if that's the case. or Jay Shetty. Sometimes where you're already at, you can fulfill that purpose right there. Um, we devised a plan. My goal was to get him to devise a plan, which he did, and use his motivational speaking capabilities in his staff meetings. Because not only was it giving him the chance to put that into practice for himself, and he felt like fulfilled, every week when he did those motivational speeches, he also was helping people in his staff, like the people that worked for him. They were happier to work for him because they looked forward to those speeches. As much as we get annoyed with staff meetings, when you have motivational messages being passed on to you, trust me, it does change your brain. It does make a difference to your psychological setup moving forward. People may joke about it, people may make fun of it, and usually those are the people that sometimes deep down they're the ones taking the most in from those messages. They just like to be funny, you know, or they still haven't gotten to the point of understanding the value of, motivation at that level or the need for that. So self-awareness is important. Also, being comfortable with yourself, you know, uh, being okay with showing your weakness. I used to think that letting people know, for instance, um, that sometimes I mix up my words when I'm speaking or even when I'm writing uh, was embarrassing. So actually, I wasn't comfortable speaking in front of people. I wasn't comfortable writing, um, or even like there was a period of time, I remember it was seventh grade into eighth, math became a struggle because I used to mix up my numbers. There's a little level of dyslexia there for me. Um, Now I'm just okay sharing it. When it happens, I'm just like, oh yeah, uh, I'm a little bit dyslexic. I just uh, I just don't focus on it. I found ways and methods that I use regularly so that it doesn't happen, but sometimes it comes out. So instead of being embarrassed about it and feeling like I have to hide it, I'm okay sharing it. I don't have a problem. It's what makes up me. So the weaknesses that you think that you have, the triggers that you think that you have to hide or that you have to pretend don't exist, you don't have to do that. A lot of times those are the things that other individuals actually find endearing about you. Or when you actually bring those out and you share them, you are actually building a bridge of trust with people or a person on the other side so that they can share theirs in turn. And even if they don't share theirs, they're going to trust you because they're going to feel comfortable with the fact that you're sharing a weakness that usually people try to hide. So they're going to be, again, it's the endearing feeling is brought out when you share a weakness with people, when you accept the weakness, when you don't try to pretend it's not there. And usually the most offensive, angry, mean people are the ones that are trying to hide their weaknesses the most. There's stuff that's making them weak that they want to hide, so they use their anger to appear to be strong when really they are afraid of something. Okay. So let's go to the next one. The next factor that is really, oh my God, it's what the world really needs the most. And we preach it a lot, we hear about it a lot. But again, I feel like people only take this into consideration when it comes to, when it's to their convenience or when it's in their immediate proximity. That is empathy. Empathy is another factor that is extremely important for your development of emotional intelligence. And what is empathy? It is the ability to understand and share the emotions of others. It involves putting oneself in someone else's shoes, recognizing their perspectives, and responding with compassion. Responding with compassion. Cultivating empathy enables individuals to build stronger relationships and connect on a deeper level. Do we want to connect on a deeper level with everybody? No, it's impossible. It's Could you imagine connecting on a deep level with every single person? That would be, I mean, when it comes to emotions, your life would be an ocean of just a variety of emotions. You wouldn't be able to handle the rainbow of emotions that would come upon you. But empathy is important because we do interact with human beings everywhere we go. You know, even if it's virtual, even if it's on dating apps, you're still interacting with a human being. Social media, Snapchat, what you post, what you comment on people's uh, social media or internet, or what you respond on an email, it's another person on the other side. I mean, of course, sometimes there's bots, but most of the time it's another person. Um, but let's talk about in-person scenarios with family, with friends, with romantic involvements. Empathy is so important and so valuable because it allows you to feel the other person's feelings as if it were your own, as if you were in the situation. And in order for you to be able to put that into play, it requires time. It requires a moment for you to actually think what it would be like if that were you. How would you react? How would you respond? How would you talk? How would you feel? And when people take that moment, they are more likely to respond with compassion because now they have envisioned a setting where they're in those shoes. They are the person going through that situation. You know, um, empathy allows for us to understand and share emotions. So not only does it allow you to understand another person's emotions, it allows you to share emotions also. Because when you are comfortable giving yourself time, or you put this into practice, actually, I should say, you put into practice giving yourself time to try to understand the other person's perspective, to actually envision yourself as the other person, and you take that time to go through that, you are going to eventually be super comfortable sharing how things make you feel. And in today's cultural setting, it has become very much the norm to just bypass another person's feelings to only get what I want, what I'm interested in. Oh, and there's another thing with this new age mentality and this new age culture being spread around that, oh, I only reciprocate where energy's reciprocated back to me, I only give energy to where it's the same level of energy given back, or I'm only gonna pour into whatever pours into me. That is such BS. That is such BS. So you mean to tell me that if you're happy, go lucky, you're vibrating at a frequency of life is amazing, all of a sudden, because someone around you, next to you, with you, whatever, has a much lower vibration in terms of how they view life, you're just going to stoop down to their level and be the same thing with them? Because technically, that's what that means. That's what you're saying. You're only going to pour into what pours into you. So you're only going to be kind to who's kind to you. You're only going to love who loves you. Then what's the point? You're only going to be empathetic with who's empathetic with you. Then you're technically being like everybody else. You are technically actually going against what having an amazing energy really represents. Vibing high really means that you're choosing to be at that vibrational level regardless of what's around you. I'll give you a scenario, and I'll use a scenario from my personal life right now, my personal life again, but not from my younger years, from like recent, current. Um, today I'll talk about dating, okay? In the dating world, it's very much that mentality of like, oh, I'll only do this if they do that, or I'm not going to respond, or I'm not going to text, or I'm not going to let them know how I feel unless they say it first. I'm like, oh my God, that is so stupid. Nowadays, people have jobs and commitments, and things happen to them that you don't even know what might be taking place in another person's life because you don't know them long enough. That you know, I'll let I'll I'm having a happy life. You know, I feel amazing about life, right? I have reached a level and a position in life where I feel in love with my life. I don't feel like I have to show off. I don't feel like I'm competing. I don't need to compete. I feel confident in what I have, in who I am. So I'll reach out and be like, hey, I was thinking of you. Is everything okay? I have no problem doing that. And that has become normal for me, regardless of whatever is happening interaction wise with someone, just because I care to know that another person's okay. Caring to know or caring for another just at a level of wanting to know, are they okay? Because you understand what's going on in the world today does not make you weak, does not make you, what's the word? Oh, that's another thing they like to say. Um, it does not mean you're chasing either. That's another concept. You know, don't chase, attract. Yeah, you can attract, of course, you can attract things into your life. That's all, fine and dandy. But not everything that gets attracted into your life is stuff that you want to keep anyway. So, that's another thing in the new age mentality about energy field and manifestation that makes no sense. Okay, so pour into what pours into you. Don't chase, attract. What's another one? Oh yeah. Um, you can't don't uh I forget. There's a specific way that they put it when they make these quotes that show up on social media that people always repost. Um, oh, I won't do for you if you don't do for me. And it's kind of like, okay, so you're only going to be a caring, loving, and genuine person um, if you get that first. So you always have to get that first in order to have something else given to you. And as far as I know, if we're going to go based on universal law, the universe is only going to give you what you can handle. So if the universe is seeing that you can only handle the behavior you have at that moment that way, you're going to keep getting experiences like that. You're going to keep getting that level of cyclical behavior pattern in your life. If you want that to be different, you got to position yourself higher. Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go higher. What does that mean? Just because someone treats you like crap, or let's say they ghost you, that doesn't mean that you should just go on and do that same thing. Because then you're basically doing the same exact behavior they're doing. And that pattern is going to become you. You're going to become the exact thing that you're not attracted to. You're going to become the person that you don't feel you want to be, because you are going to start having those patterns. You're going to start imitating those behaviors. So you want to be a renewed person. You want to be a person that has true empathy, and that empathy just comes easy for you. You got to practice it no matter what. Now, that doesn't mean that you tolerate everything. Practicing empathy also allows you to say, hey, this is it. We're not sitting at the same table anymore. That's another thing about practicing empathy for your emotional intelligence development, why it's important. Because it also allows you to say, hey, no, you know why? Because you also have to apply empathy with yourself. You got to remind yourself who you are. And if you have to go look at some pictures of yourself, and I've done this sometimes with a couple of clients, look at pictures of yourself when you were a kid, when you were 4, 5, 6, 7, in your teenage years, whatever age group you're in right now, go and look at pictures of yourself when you were much smaller. You know why? Because you gotta recognize that there is an inner child within you. Number one, that inner child doesn't disappear. That child that you were is still you. You gotta have defense mechanisms for that child. You got to be able to stand up for that child. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. So the physical you, which is at this age right now, has to stand up for the spiritual you. So empathy allows you to put that into practice. Empathy allows for you to enact self forgiveness, self love, but it also helps you enact love of others and forgiving others, yes. But empathy also then helps you understand and accept the fact that you need to decide who can sit at the table and who can and who cannot sit at the table with you. You got to ask yourself the question, which relationship is more valuable to you? The relationship with yourself, or the relationship with whoever is in question that you're, applying empathy with? And that's up to you, because only you know the experience you're having with that person or those persons. Now, if that interaction with those persons or person is one where even putting yourself in their shoes, you still feel like you don't want to sit at the same table with them, then that means you need to cut off ties, and that's okay. That is completely okay. It does not make you a bad person. It does not make you a person who, you know, doesn't deserve love or shouldn't have, you know, uh, love in their life, whether it be romantic, whether it be familial love, or whether it be from friends. You sometimes have to cut people out of the table. Not because you're doing it. Sometimes they're the ones that cut themselves out. They made the choice to have behavior patterns that resulted in that. And applying empathy allows you to recognize that, because you also apply empathy by putting yourself in the shoes of the little version of you. How would I feel if I saw someone treat that person this way in front of me? You wouldn't be okay. All right, well, then this is not where I want to be, because I'm not going to accept this. Sometimes it's not even for yourself. It's like, no, the 5-year-old little girl, Carla, doesn't deserve this. The 5-year-old or 6-year-old or whatever age group you want to think of for yourself doesn't deserve this, because you know the heart that you have, you know? Plus, you've placed yourself in the shoes of the other person, and you can't justify why they're having that behavior. That's another reason. So applying empathy, cultivating empathy enables individuals to build stronger relationships. Relationships are not just the ones you have with other people. Relationships are also something you have with yourself. Like I said a little while ago, you have to consider what has more value for you, the relationship with yourself or the relationship that you have with the person or persons in question. Sometimes a relationship with yourself is more valuable than the relationship with others or with another. And that's where you look at them and you're like, no, this is not for me. This is not for me. I don't want this for myself. I'm so sorry. I care about you. You're a great person, or you're a great friend. You know, we've had fun together, or I love you so much, but this is not for me. You can even love a person, and this will also be something you could put into practice with family. You can love people, you can love a person and not want to share a path with them, a space with them, a meal or life with them. You can love people and not want to be in the same room with them. You can. Why? Because you've already been through the process of understanding through empathy how that dynamic works, and it's not for you. You feel it in your heart, it's not for you. Get out of it. Don't stay in something that your spirit is constantly positioning you in experiences of like, well, think of the other side. If you're always thinking of the other side, and what the other side is spitting out is something that is emotionally affecting you in a negative way, no amount of empathy is going to make you or convince you to think that that's okay. As a matter of fact, your level of empathy will make you realize you don't deserve that, because that's not how you would treat somebody. Even if you were paid, you wouldn't treat somebody that way, you know? And I'm not using specific examples here, I'm being general. So apply that to your life for those relationships that you feel that you've sometimes had to turn your back on. Well, because you have to apply empathy not just with others, you have to also apply it with yourself. That's the emotional intelligence tidbit that people sometimes forget. Emotional intelligence is not just about, oh, what am I going to learn so that I could apply it with relationships and they work better because I treat people better. No, it's also about what can you learn so that you can apply it with the relationship you have with yourself, so that you can also use that to make relationship with others strong and valuable and worth your time. So empathy is important, and it's something you cultivate. So cultivation takes time. You don't just apply empathy once or at the beginning of a relationship, or a few times. You're constantly applying empathy. You're constantly cultivating that every day. Life presents scenarios for you to notice sometimes, hey, you need to be more empathetic, you need to be nicer, be more present, be off of your devices, you know, be off of virtual reality, be physically present where you are so that you can also allow others to apply empathy with you and you can feel it. That's also beautiful. All right, so the next factor when it comes to emotional intelligence I want to talk about is emotional regulation. Ah, that just sounds emotional regulation. Emotional regulation. You know, sometimes I'm sitting down and I write these things. I type this up, by the way. This is, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, you can't see it. It's a Word document. I'm probably going to attach it to this video. It's going to be in the details of this video. So if you want to read this again, you can kind of have a definition of everything I'm saying. Emotional regulation refers to the ability to manage and control one's own emotions. It involves recognizing and understanding emotions as they arise and effectively responding to them. Emotional regulation allows individuals to avoid impulsive reactions, makes make thoughtful decisions, and maintain emotional balance. Just because somebody hurts your feelings, breaks your heart, crosses you the wrong way, does not give you the right to have a reaction that is negative, does not make it right to allow your impulse reaction to be the answer. Also, in an emotional state, no matter what the emotional state is, it is not the best time to make a decision. You're more likely to make the wrong decision when you are extremely emotional as opposed to making a decision a few hours later or the next day after you've cooled off. Okay? So, emotional regulation is the ability to manage and control your emotions. Now, don't be hard on yourself if when you are in a situation where you get emotional, you need time to process that emotion. Okay? That is totally fine. As a matter of fact, that is extremely healthy. You need to process emotions. We're rational beings as humans. We need to slow down our mind. And that's why, this is what this space is for me. When I have emotional moments, um, but I do have to say that now my emotional moments are different. They're moments of joy, not moments of tearing up like my heart is breaking. But I've had those moments, and that's why I could say this to you. But this is a space I come to. Have a place where you go to and you just escape from the world, whether it's indoors or outdoors in nature, where it's just you and, the divine, and you can meditate on what it is you're feeling, why that hurts, and how you should overcome that. Okay? It's one of the reasons why faith is so important because faith will allow you to transform emotionally heartbreaking moments into understanding, into moments of how to be compassionate, into moments of faith will allow you to transform emotional negative scenarios into knowing that l- certain elements of life are always going to be out of your control and you need to trust that everything's going to be okay. So that's the reason why when you have an emotional time, an emotional moment, you need to find a space and time to kind of just be checked out from what's going on in the world for a bit, for a day, for a weekend, you know, sometimes for a week. Like I said, I shared the experience with you guys about how I lost my entrance to the medical school at the age of 17. And I was so proud of myself because at 17, I was ready for college. I was done with high school and I had all my grades to go to college. So I was excited. And I was the first in my family to go to college. And I was the youngest also out of all of my cousins and extended family that had kids. I was also the youngest and I was going. So I was very excited and then that didn't happen. It was a very negative emotional time for me. And that made me just check out. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't I took time. I took a couple months before I even registered in any university just to collect my thoughts. Um, at the time, I felt like I was being a loser. But looking back now, I'm really grateful I took those couple of months because I needed to recalibrate my thoughts. I needed to also re I needed to recalibrate my thoughts and devise a new plan for my life, for my academic life. You know, I couldn't just go from point A to point B to point C to point D. Life has always been that way. Like I've always seen life as like you're going from point A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like you're going through all these points of life, but it's just going too fast for me. Like I need a minute to like check out for a moment. I need to like think of what I'm going to do. I need to see what works best for me, not what works best for you or the system or whatever. I need to see what's going to work best for me, you know, because in the end, I'm the one that's going to have to deal with how that's going to make me feel. I'm going to have to deal with the consequences of how my table's going to look. So let me check that out. So you need that. Not everybody can go through life meeting all the checkpoints at the exact time that's supposed to happen because there is no exact time. The timing is based on what works for you in your life journey, not on what's worked for everybody else around you. Your life journey, what your purpose is based on what's happening with your life at the moment, not with what you thought your life was supposed to be. Your life is exactly as it should be because there's specific reasons for that. You haven't figured that out, that's okay. You're going to get the answer soon enough, and emotional intelligence will help you realize that and find contentment with what life is giving you. So emotional regulation, it also involves recognizing and understanding emotions as they arise and effectively responding to them. You should never react. You should always be responsive. What does that mean? Responding is sharing what you are thinking or feeling. You're sharing what you're thinking or feeling. Reacting is yelling, screaming, throwing things. Physical violence sometimes comes into play. You should never react because you'll regret it. You will regret a reaction out of a negative emotional moment. You will never regret sharing what you're feeling or thinking from a very negative emotional moment because it will actually help you vent out some of that energy that is trying to stay pent up in you to keep you in that space of negativity. Okay. So I'll give you a key parenting secret. I don't think it's a secret, but a lot of people that are parents may not even realize this. In moments where you respond or that kids get, a negative feedback from a parent in a form of yelling, or like the parent is, all of a sudden has this outburst of anger out of nowhere. 90% of the time that's coming from a place, not so much of anger, it's coming from a place of them fearing something. Either they fear they can't handle a situation, or they don't want to admit that they're afraid that they won't be able to understand a situation, or it's their fear sometimes that they don't want their kid to be like them. They want their kid to be better, you know? So many a times the way a parent is responding to their kid when it comes to, anger behaviors, it has to do or it comes from a place of fear. But they don't know how to say, I'm just afraid of this. I am afraid that you'll turn out to be like me, and I don't want that for you. I want you to have a better life. Instead of saying that, the parent will have this reaction of yelling and screaming and insulting or doing something physical, which is not right, but it does happen, but it's coming from a place of fear, you know? Now, does that excuse the person? No, I'm not saying that excuses the person and it's okay to accept that kind of behavior. That's not what this means. But this enables us to understand what's happening, to understand that their behavior is taking place because of this, not because of what it seems. Nothing is what it seems. There's always something more underneath the surface. That's another thing that strengthening your emotional intelligence will help you understand. So, emotional regulation also allows you to keep emotional balance. You practice this long enough, it'll be really hard for somebody to take you out of your balance. It'll be hard for somebody to upset you. It'll be very difficult for somebody to get you emotionally to a space where you cry, you know? Equally, it will be, I don't want to say hard, but happiness is not going to seem like, bursts of laughter and jumping up and down and clapping your hands. It's just going to seem as calmness and serenity because you're in balance. So, emotional regulation helps us with that. Um, Let me go to the fifth one, social skills. Social skills encompass a range of abilities, including effective communication, active listening, conflict resolution, and collaboration. Developing strong social skills enables individuals to navigate social interactions, build and maintain relationships, and work well in teams. Social skills are so important. They have become actually really valuable nowadays because you don't really find a lot of great social skills anymore because of the virtual world that we live in. You know, social media has us communicating with so many more people other than just the people that are presently physically with us than ever, that we're not even realizing that we are not taking the time to say, "How are you today? How's your day? Oh, yeah, what your name is so and so. Are you having a great day? How do you feel today?" People are bypassing those kindness um, questions or those kindness gestures in their conversation, and they're just cutting straight to what they want from you. They're cutting straight to straight to what the point is. And that's seeping into like so many different relationship patterns. When it comes to like family, they only call you when they need something. When it comes to friends, they only they'll reach out to you when it's of their interest for something. When it comes to romantic involvements, they cut to the chase. I remember having an experience that I was seeing someone and they wanted to know how much they have to invest before we take it to the next level, and I was like, forget this. Like, what? Because again, they just want shortcuts, you know. I recently went to I was out with some girlfriends, went out to a place, loved the music, but we didn't feel safe at the bar. We wanted to like just be standing at one of the tables to be a little bit more safe while we waited for the others to get there to join us. And we were shooed off the table because, we're not getting a bottle yet and the table's reserved, blah 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 blah. I just felt like the way that the wait staff approached us, especially being female, they were just so inconsiderate. Like they lack the social skill of kindness, how they approach you, of like good manners, you know? Why? Because everybody just wants to cut to the chase. Cut to the chase of what they want. Cut to the chase of what they want to tell you, and that's it. That's what matters. Well, that's why we're experiencing relationships that don't last, people that don't value one another because they're not even valuing or realizing that the words they're saying out of their mouth don't even have value. They're just they're just out of convenience to what they want. They just want their convenience. That's it. Um, so that's just a little tidbit of how social skills are affected, or can benefit actually by you taking the effort, taking the time. You make that choice. Look, 20 people around me could be, cut to the chase in a conversation person. I'm still going to be that one person that's going to say, "Are you having a good day? How are you doing today? How has it been? Is it a long day?" Like just help people around you like slow down their mind, like slow down their energy, because whether it's good or bad energy, the rate at which it moves has nothing to do with what type of energy it is. Good energy doesn't move faster than bad energy. Like good and bad energy are good and bad energy, right? And they both can be moving fast or slow. It doesn't have anything to do with that. But you could tell when a person's energetic field is just like too agitated, whether it's good or bad. You can help them slow it down simply by saying, "Hey, you're having a long day today. Thank you so much for being here. How are you? What is your name? Or, oh, why are you ladies sitting over here? Or why are you at this table?" And then, okay, well, when someone gets it reserved, you're going to have to move. But until then, you can sit here. It's totally fine. Why have we totally annihilated kindness for our convenience? You're going to need someone to be kind to you at some point. So it is to your convenience to be kind because you attract who you are. You don't attract in this life what you want. You attract who you are. And if you notice, when it comes to social interactions, you attract who you are. So if people are leaving your life, it's probably because you are not like them and they are not like you. When you are like-minded, your energetic fields are like alike each other, you will probably establish a long-lasting relationship with those people. Those who are not like-minded as yourself, they are not going to stick around. So be grateful when that happens, actually. Be grateful that like-minded individuals aren't there. Life is telling you when people are leaving, friendships are ending, or even if you're dating someone and something's just not, I don't know, it's almost like something's not right in the seasoning of this connection. That's pretty much your spirit trying to speak to you and say, hey, they're not like-minded. Like they can't be in our, like, you can't be in the same table, you know? So, and you'll notice that with how they associate with you, how they interact with you, because you attract who you are, you don't attract what you want. So if you want to attract abundance, you need to be an abundant person. You need to behave abundantly. If you want to attract generous people, you need to be a generous person. And I don't mean generous with money, I mean generous with your love, generous with your time, generous with your consideration. There's many ways to be generous that don't involve gifts and money. I I'll share another story with you. I had um I had an encounter with someone that basically, attempted in many different ways to win my affection through being generous with, gifts and money, thinking that gifts and money was going to make me see them at a certain level. It actually made me see them at a level that I'm not attracted to that, because it's not gifts and money that attracts. It's 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 character. They may bring that to you, but their physical presence is telling you something else. You attract who you are. And the generosity I was looking for was not generosity in things, it was generosity in time. It was generosity in consideration. It was generosity in gestures, but in gestures in terms of being physically present with me. That's what I mean by generosity. If you want to attract a happy life, are you a happy person? If you want to attract people that are, happy with their life and they are authentic. If you want to attract authenticity into your life, and here's where it comes the kicker about authenticity. Are you authentic? Are you truly representing yourself the way that you are? Or are you living what I call an Instagram life? Instagram profile looks amazing, but that's not your real life, you know? You call yourself, a lifestyle coach, but in real life, you know, uh, you're bussing tables somewhere in a restaurant. Not there's anything wrong with that. Put in the profile who you are then, or don't, you know? Don't represent yourself in a way that's not you. Be proud of the you are in the moment that you are in. In the moment that you are in. And life is going to keep attracting more and more to you. Don't try to be something that is not the reality of your life, because you're only going to keep attracting people and individuals and scenarios and circumstances that are not real, that are superficial, that are not going to stay. Why? Because everything that you're representing is not real. Everything that you're representing is superficial. Everything that you're representing doesn't stay because it doesn't really even exist in your life 100%. You attract who you are. And how do we attract who we are? With our social skills. That's one of them. Let's talk about the next factor of emotional intelligence, motivation. Motivation refers to the drive and commitment to achieve personal and professional goals. In the context of emotional intelligence, it involves understanding one's own motivations and harnessing them to drive positive behavior and growth. Motivated individuals are often more resilient and proactive in managing their emotions and relationships. This one is my favorite. It's my favorite. I know some people struggle with motivation. This one's my favorite. Why? Because it has been the backbone of me being able to go from different points of my life without caring what anybody else thinks, without worrying about even, what happened before. I don't even worry about what happened before anymore. I just happen about the forward. The forward is what matters. Looking forward is what matters. You know, Stretching my head with my eyes set forward in life is what matters. Whatever happened before, okay, yeah, it happened. It took place. But guess what? We're not the same person. You're not the same person. Your life is not in the same place. Your mind is not in the same space anymore. You are new. You are reinvented. Okay? All those experiences that you have had has now been has resulted in your reinvention, not in your destruction. Often people will use all the experiences they've gone through, especially the ones that have hurt tremendously, to justify and give a story of their destruction. No, no, boo boo. Those experiences were not there for you to create a story of destruction. Those experiences were there so that you can have a story today of reinvention. They are the opportunity of reinvention for yourself. How do you reinvent yourself, your life, your mindset, your thoughts? You can choose that. Why are you choosing destruction as the conclusion when you could choose reinvention? Yeah, this happened to me, but I'm going to be this from now on. Yeah, this took place for me, but I'm not going to uh, feel guilty about that anymore. Yeah, I had to make this decision or this move at this time in my life, but I'm not going to feel ashamed for it anymore. You know why? Because I didn't know any better. Or you know why? I had to do this and it made me feel ashamed because I was all alone. So moving forward, you know what's going to happen? I'm not going to let that have a stronghold on me anymore because now I know I survived that situation that made me ashamed. I survived it. I'm here today and look at me moving forward and look at what you have in life in that movement forward. It's all a mind play. Your mind attracts what you believe to be true because your brain cannot tell what's reality from what's a lie or your imagination. To your brain, all of that is the truth. All of that exists. What you imagine, what you say as a lie, and what's the truth is all the same for your brain. It can't tell the difference. So why not start creating a loop of positivity in your mind, a loop of imagination that gives you visuals of you living in abundance? You will attract it. Just today I had the conversation with my mom. Abundance is not about what you can afford in life. Abundance is about what you can attract in life. Abundance is about the experiences life gives you. Because you can have experiences that are extremely abundant that other people can only dream of and never even have to pay for them. I know some people that have gone through this and experienced this. I had a friend who he lives off of that. He attracts that into his life. Now, is that 100% great? No, because you got to be able to provide for yourself. You just do. You have to be able to be the one to make the decision also of when you can have that moment, because that's also extremely gratifying and keeps you motivated in your path. However, when people only consider abundance as stuff they can afford, and then they cannot afford that much, then you start to think negatively about your life. You start to not feel good about the life you have. So I'm here to tell you that abundance is really about the experiences you attract in life, um, and also the setting in which you see your life in. Okay, and why is that important? Because it comes from your ability to motivate yourself. It also will continue the cycle of you continuously motivating yourself. You know, Motivate yourself, or motivation is the drive and commitment. That's the other thing. People nowadays have a struggle with commitment, not just for relationships, even with themselves and stuff that they want to accomplish for themselves. They don't want to commit to the process of getting physically fit. They want to go to a cosmetic surgeon and get a surgery and in a month have the body they always wanted. That's great. You may end up with a body that you always wanted, But the problem is you didn't go through the process of commitment to get that body. So guess what? As much as you may pay for surgeries to have that body is not going to stay with you that way. You're going to have to keep maintaining it either through surgeries that'll happen afterwards, or you're still going to have to do some kind of physical activity to maintain that. Just because you get a surgery to have your body cosmetically altered, it's not going to stay snatched if you don't work it to be snatched. It still requires some form of a process. And if it's not through exercise, physical, it's going to be through changing your dietary patterns. You have to commit to something. Or if you don't want to change any one of those, then you're going to have to keep yourself committed to cosmetic procedures. Cosmetic, they may not be massive surgeries or big cosmetic, needing anesthesia kind of surgeries, but little cosmetic tidbit retouches that you have to do every 6 months or every year or whatever. What I'm trying to say is this: commitment is necessary for motivation to exist, because commitment allows for the cycle of motivation to keep going. To be motivated, commitment is adjacent to that process. Because if not, you're not going to be motivated to keep the exercise routine. You're not committed to it. Why? You're not committed to yourself. You have commitment issues with yourself. You'll have commitment issues in relationships. You don't have staying power, even with jobs. That's another thing that we're observing a lot with the younger generation now. And I'm talking about people, in their 20s and 30s right now. You have staying power problems. You have an issue staying where you're at and allowing things to develop and grow. You have a problem with commitment. You don't make the decision of committing to someone until you've taken them on a test drive, for instance. Like what? We're not cars, we're not vehicles, we're not inanimate objects. We're human beings with spirits, with emotions, with feelings, with history of experiences that are great and some are traumatic. We have energy fields with us. You should choose commitment or not simply because it is a choice you unconditionally choose to make, because you're also choosing whether or not you want to, express love to someone. And if you want things to be unconditional in your life, you're going to have to understand commitment, because it's also what's going to keep you motivated with yourself. And motivation is key to being resilient. Resilience in life requires motivation. Let me tell you, you get in an exercise routine long enough, it becomes your lifestyle. It stops becoming something you do just to get a specific body part to look a certain way. It becomes a part of your life. You have to do it 3-4 times a week. You do something long enough. The psychologists say that if you do something at least for 21 days, it becomes a habit. And it's true. If you do something for, I would say at least 2 months, not even 21 days. I will give it 2 months, just because some people may take a little bit longer than others, in their mentally to feel that it's a habit. But at least after 2 months, if you committed to that, after 2 months, it becomes a part of your life. Now, if you're giving up before even a 2-month period is happening, no, it's very hard for that to become a part of your life, whether it be a habit, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a job, even a job. That's why jobs have probation periods, so they could see if they want to keep you or not. But also, when you go to a job, you also are putting them on probation. You have assets to offer, no matter where you go to work. You're putting them on probation as well. Let them know that. Find value within yourself by having commitment with yourself. You are committed to having a better life. You are committed to having a better body. Not because you want a better body for the cosmetic appearance, but you want a better body for the health factor of it, then yes, you're committed to that. You're committed to making changes because you don't want to be the same person. It requires a commitment to change something. If you want to be a reinvented person, you want to be a happier person, you want to be a better person, it requires commitment to changes. And if you are able to make commitments with yourself and not break them, it will also build your self-confidence. Self-confidence comes from you knowing that no matter what is happening, and this is where resilience is applied, no matter what's happening, you're not breaking the commitment that you made with yourself. It's going to be ongoing. It's going to be something that's a part of your life. It's a part of who you are because you're committed to that. So your self-confidence will be so stronger and elevated because you know that you don't break commitments with yourself. So you know what? You don't break commitments with other people. You are a person that you're a man or a woman of your word. You have integrity. So motivation is key to developing those other personality traits that everybody seeks to have. Also, it involves understanding your motivations. What motivates you? Is it because you want to be healthier? Is it because you want to have a different physique? Is it because you want to, I don't know, maybe something happened in your life and now you're so grateful that you are okay? You're exercising simply as a form of showing gratitude to yourself that you're okay. You know, in my previous episode, I talked about my testimony, how I survived an accident that I was supposed to like lose my left leg and be paralyzed. The fact that my body didn't end up that way resulted in me wanting to move it more than ever. Dancing, exercising, crossfitting, physical activity outdoors, long walks, running, jogging, cycling, uh, just wanting to do all these physical activities that before I felt like I was too busy in life to do. Now I do them, and it's not so much of, oh yeah, I want to be 110 pounds. No, it's more of a factor of I'm showing my spirit how grateful I am that I didn't lose my left leg. I didn't become or stay paralyzed as I was, from that car crash was supposed to be paralyzed. That's not how I stayed. It's my way of even like being grateful to the divine. I'm going to treat this body good. I'm going to make sure it stays healthy, make it healthier. I committed to that. So, um, understand what's motivating you. And what motivates you should never be other people. You should never be motivated by other people, by what other people think, by wanting to impress other people. That should never be your motivation. Although they say that usually people are more moved and motivated by hate than by love. And that's great in a way because if hate gets you to want to make changes, okay. You want to prove someone wrong, okay. But in the long run, it's not going to be that makes you stay committed to the process. It tends to be the self-love you have with yourself. The fact that you don't want to lie to yourself. If I tell myself I'm going to work out 3 times a week, I am not going to let a whole week pass by and not do it because at the end of that whole week, I'm going to feel horrible with myself that I lied to myself. I didn't keep my word with myself. So you know what? I'm not going to keep my word with other people. It's going to be harder for me to be a person of my word. And I'm not speaking it from experience. I'm speaking it from how what I've also witnessed with other people. Usually individuals that have a hard time keeping to the commitments with themselves, they have a hard time keeping with the commitments or even making commitments with others. They're the go with the flow people. It could be man or woman. Go with the flow people. Go with the flow people. Those are people who don't know how to make commitments. And if you're in that kind of situation or with that kind of interaction, get away from that. You don't want go with the flow people. Because if you're trying to change or reinvent your life or be a better you, it requires commitments. It requires knowing and valuing commitments. Okay. Self-reflection and continuous learning. That's another key factor for developing your emotional intelligence. Self-reflection and continuous learning. Engaging in self-reflection and actively seeking opportunities for personal growth and learning are essential for developing emotional intelligence. Regularly examining one's thoughts, behaviors, and emotions helps identify areas for improvement and allows for the acquisition of new skills and perspectives. Acquiring new perspectives is everything when you want to appreciate and be more grateful in your life. And gratitude has been linked recently with a key component with mental health. Your ability to look at your life from a gratitude standpoint has the um, capability of shifting how you analyze yourself, how you value yourself to a more positive standing. And that's what everybody wants. Value yourself more positively. You know, understand your value better. Know that you have value. How about that? So, gratitude is linked with that. Where does gratitude come from? Self reflection. Self reflection is key. You know, I had I had a scenario in my life that happened that in the moment it seemed like it was the best, choice to make. Looking back now, self-reflection, I understand, wow, I really hated that I was in that. Like, I really hated that I put myself in that. Well, I feel guilt that I actually allowed myself to be in that situation for so long when my intuition was telling me something else. I can't believe they were cheating on me and I didn't even realize. And when I realized, it was too late. You know, how is that? How was I with this person that had these character traits? What was I thinking? Why was I friends with someone? Okay, here's another one. Why was I friends with someone who did stuff behind my back, who spoke like that about me to others? Now you're like questioning, your ability to judge people's character. When meanwhile, we shouldn't be pointing the finger at the person that went through that and say, what's wrong with you? What you should have known better. No, how about pointing the finger at the people who behave with patterns of disrespect, lack of consideration, with deceit? How about looking at those persons or the scenario where those persons were in and saying, yeah, that was screwed up that that person behaved like that with you. You didn't deserve it. See, the problem we have culturally, and this is when I say culturally, I don't just mean like one specific culture. It's around the world mostly. When I've had these conversations with people from different countries and people even that I life coached, the feedback always comes with to them as you should have known better. You should have never put yourself in that position. You shouldn't have allowed this. You should have. Didn't you see the red flags? No, actually. And even when you do see red flags, the fact that you have a caring heart kind of makes you want to sometimes help the person. So in society, instead of pointing the finger at the person that, you know, undergoes the experience in a negative way, why not look at the people that are acting in deceitful, uncaring, inconsiderate, selfish ways? Why not pointing the finger at that and saying, that was a messed up situation. That person shouldn't have treated you like that. You didn't deserve it. You see, when we have that, you didn't deserve that feedback, we help another person understand they're valuable. But when we have the feedback of, you should have known better. How did you allow yourself to be in that? You were so smart. Why did you even? It's like, gee, I'm so sorry. I should I be a mean, ruthless person? And some of you listening to me probably are going to agree that, yeah, you should be a mean, ruthless person. You shouldn't always be nice. I'm not talking about always being nice. What I'm saying is take the route that is best for you, but it doesn't necessarily have to change your character to get there. Don't change your character. Don't turn into a witch because everybody else around you is a witch. You can still be an angel and still fly in a different direction. The outcome is still going to be better. The only difference is you're not left feeling guilty that, oh, now you're like a witch like everybody else. The outcome is I'm still an angel. I'm not calling myself an angel. I'm just using that as an example because they're two opposites so people can understand. But for me, that's an option that always existed for me. I still want to leave a scenario or situation feeling like an angel, regardless, you know, regardless of what happens. Why? Because I put my head on my pillow at night by myself. And I want to feel at peace with me. I don't, you shouldn't care about how others interpret you. You should care about the peace that is with yourself when you go to sleep. How you treat others, self reflection. How have you made others feel? Have you used them? Have you lied to them? Have you deceived them? Have you made them believe that you were someone you were not, just so that you can get connected to them? That's also important. Do you deceive and lie to yourself, or not even to yourself, so that maybe you do that to your family, so they can respect you, so they think that you're doing a certain thing when you really you're doing something else, because you're too ashamed to let them know the truth about you. Shame is an illusion of the mind to trap you into a cycle that takes you down a spiral of depression. We need to break the chains of shame and guilt because they are illusions of the mind that come in the form of your own thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are in your mind, but you're not your thoughts. Most of your thoughts, if you were to write them down on paper, and I challenge you, do this with yourself, write down what you think about yourself, and then read what you wrote down back to yourself. And then cross out all of the negative items that you wrote down. And cross out anything else that you don't recognize or identify with as being really you. I promise you're going to be crossing out almost 90 to 95% of what you wrote. Because you are not your thoughts. And just because the voice in your head sounds like yourself, it's not even you. You know, we're spirits inside a physical body. We came onto a planet that is very negatively charged. Planet Earth is very negatively charged in terms of electricity, electrical ions. Okay? So we are going to attract negativity. We're positively charged, spiritually speaking. We attract negativity because negative is attracted to positive. And that's why people who live in the light and are very loving and very caring and very beautiful, like you just feel wonderful around them, they attract the worst traumatic situations because negativity is attracted to them. It doesn't mean that that person has a problem. Just because you have a ton of problems in your life, even illnesses, okay? It's attracted to you not because of horrible things or because you deserve that. It's attracted to you because you are a beam of light. All right? And so self-reflection allows you to understand this because it gives you a chance to look into what could be the cause of this. And sometimes you need a moment to look into it so that you can recognize, I am not the true cause of this. The cause of this is something external. It's something else. It's not 100% me. Okay? 7 on my list. Cultural awareness. Yes. Cultural awareness is also another key component to developing your emotional intelligence. Why? Because being culturally aware involves recognizing and respecting the diverse beliefs, values, and norms of different cultures. It includes being open minded, curious, and willing to learn from others' cultural backgrounds. Cultivating cultural awareness enhances empathy and promotes inclusive interactions. Cultural awareness is the component that usually it's applicable like when you travel or depending where you live, when you're dealing with people that are not originally from where you're at. They're from another country, they're from another cultural background. You apply cultural awareness. Okay? Let me move the mic here a little bit. So why is this important to your development of emotional intelligence? Because cultural awareness allows for you to understand, for instance, that in Asian cultures, they don't look you in the eye when they talk to you. They don't look you in the eye sometimes even when they greet you. It's out of respect, not because they're being rude. Cultural awareness. In some cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, men and women do not mingle together at parties. As a matter of fact, men and women don't even dance together at family get-togethers. Sometimes the men just dance with the men and the women dance with the women. There's no intermingling of sexes. Cultural awareness allows for you to recognize other perspectives as being their norm, you know? Uh, I'm gonna use a personal experience from me, um, because that way I'm not shedding light on anyone else that I've come across or even like clients that I've life coached because I don't want to accidentally say someone's name. And I've had a couple of life coaching clients that are in the entertainment industry in a way, and I don't want to divulge that unless they say it's okay. But anyway, cultural awareness. I grew up Portuguese, so I'll just, I'm not very, even though we try to westernize ourselves, it's not 100% there. I grew up Portuguese. If you're dating someone or there's someone in your circle of friends that gets to that level where now you're dating romantically, right? Just because I introduce you to my family does not mean that I think it's a done deal. I introduce you to my family because culturally that's just normal in my Portuguese culture. Like, I'm very family oriented. We do things together as a family. If I introduce you to them, it's simply because they are a key component of my life. They make up a key component also of my character. So you're going to know them. It doesn't mean that for me it's a done deal, and that's it. And that's something that people need to understand. No matter, I think nowadays, no matter where you're living, it does not mean that it's that serious for that person. It may just be their cultural like norm. I know in America it's different. It's the whole mentality of like, oh, you date in like 6 months, 7 months, almost a year, then you meet the family. And that's kind of like, okay, that's kind of, to me, that just seems like, oh my God, like you're so distant from your family, like they don't even know who you're talking to, who you're seeing. And that has nothing to do with age, nothing to do with age. It's simply just like who is in your circle of friends. Also with when it comes to friendships, like you date, it's almost like you want to have one life that is dating and you want to have a different life that is your friend. Like you want to have multiple lives in one life. No wonder you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't feel like yourself. You're not being authentic. To be authentic means you're okay being vulnerable. You're okay showing the other aspects of your life and you're not uncomfortable because when you're authentic, guess what? That means that you're also transparent. You're not lying about your intentions. That's another reason why cultural awareness is important. In some cultures, people are very transparent with their intention, with what they're looking for, with who they are. And in other cultures, they're not because they can just I don't know, get away with it. I don't even have an answer for that. So cultural awareness allows you to understand that just because a person has specific moves in how they are with their behaviors doesn't necessarily mean it's a done deal for them. Now, this is from the dating perspective. Bring it to like the friendship perspective. The same thing with friends. How do you make new friends if you only keep the same circle your whole entire life? Like, life is about expansion. Abundance can only happen if you allow new things in. If you never allow new things in, how are you going to attract abundance into your life? If you're a person wondering why certain things are so difficult for you to achieve on your own, and you think you always need a group of friends or a group of people or a team, think again, my friend. Think again. Yes, having groups is great. Having friends is great. Having circles of friends is fantastic, and I'm all for it. But we need to be self reliable and we need to be able to provide for ourselves. And if you want to provide a life for yourself, you're going to need to know how to make that happen. How are you going to make that happen if you never allow new stuff in? Whatever same pattern you have now is the same you're going to have all the time. You're going to have that same thing forever. You got to let go of the fear of the new and allow yourself to experience the new sometimes. Or you're never going to experience a new type of person. Every person that you relate to is going to be the same as the other people that you used to relate to from before. Or you're going to stay stuck in a pattern of, relationships that don't make you happy because you just keep repeating the same behaviors. You're not transparent, you're not authentic. You lie. about yourself because you don't feel happy with yourself. You don't feel proud of yourself. You don't truly accept how you are. You may have a love for a particular type of person, but you go for something different because it's what culturally seems to be the norm, what's acceptable for you. Meanwhile, deep down, you know perfectly well what you really prefer. And then, you know, no matter what happens, your mind's always attracted to that regardless. So, cultural awareness allows for you to be apply self-reflection even better because then you're also able to see yourself in your cultural setting and understand what you what goes with you and what doesn't, you know? Um I always thought that I had to be in a marriage kind of setting in order to have a happy fulfilled life. And the fact that, I got divorced when I was 29 made me feel like, "Oh my god." Even Kim Kardashian just admitted she feels like one of her something that happened to her life that made her feel like a failure was the fact that her marriage with Kanye West didn't last, didn't work, that she failed at that. You get divorced and you feel like a failure when it comes to relationships. But I have come to find that actually to get divorced took more strength than to want to stay in it. And the divorce actually showed to me over the years now in self-reflection mode, I have had a more fulfilling and happier life and peaceful life in the journey of being single than I would have had I stayed married with that person. I've actually realized that I have lived a more fulfilling journey in the path that I felt like was the only choice I could make and then I felt like a failure in. So my failure resulted in me feeling more fulfilled. Failure sometimes, or what you see as failure right now, what you right now are analyzing as failure in your life, may be the reason why life becomes more fulfilling for you. More fulfilled. And I think, Kim Kardashian feeling like a failure when it comes to marriage, people will look at her life and be like, why does she feel like a failure? She is so accomplished. I had this client 2 years ago. I was life coaching him. And this was an in-person session where the meeting was supposed to be set in his office, but then ended up being, he was working from home at that time. This is a millionaire person living a life where they don't necessarily have to work uh Monday through Friday or 9 to 5, period. They don't even have to show into work unless they want to. They felt like a failure in their life because they were unable to feel happiness with their life. And the reason they felt like a failure was because they were financially so well, but felt so miserable. Now, when they presented this to me, it was kind of like, I need more details. I need to know like what's happened in your childhood. Or what's been happening as of recent, and what happened in the trajectory of your life that brought up that feeling of failure. And the failure came from them feeling shame over not living out something that, their parents wanted for them. So that shame that they never let go of resulted in their feeling of failure, even though financially they're millionaire status. They're living in a high-rise penthouse in downtown Fort Lauderdale, overlooking, the water. Amazing scenario. I'm sitting there looking at the situation like, this person has financially way better off life than I have, and yet they're coming to me to help them with their mind. Because again, it's all about perspective. Your self-reflection shifts your perspective. Your cultural awareness helps you understand that just because culturally that's what always has been done, doesn't mean that that's going to be your path. Doesn't mean that. And that's okay. You may end up feeling more fulfillment. You got to allow yourself to go through the process to allow those fulfilling things to happen. If you keep trying, and then this happened to me after I was divorced I took a couple years before I dated again. And then when I did start dating, it was like 4 years after my divorce. 3 to 4 years. I felt like I healed. So I started dating. And I'll be honest, I thought I was gonna head down a route of remarrying again. Nope. I ran away from that also. I come to realize that I live a more fulfilled life not being married. Marriage hasn't been for me just yet, and has nothing to do with finding the right one. There's no such thing as finding the one. That's another thing. That's a topic for a different episode. We're gonna like finish off in a little bit talking about the last factor of emotional intelligence. That's for another episode. But there's no such thing as right person for you. It's about who wants to make it work with you. Okay. So again, and that's where commitment comes into play. You commit to making it want to work because you want a relationship. You commit to making it work because you want a relationship with your mom. You make it work because you want a relationship with your dad. You make it work because you want a relationship with your brother, with your sister, with your, I don't know, with your best friend. You don't want to lose your best friend because of a misunderstanding. You commit to making it work because you want a relationship, not because, oh, I found the one. There's no such thing as the one. There's a feeling you might get that makes you feel like, you know what, I want to commit. And people often relate that feeling they get when they see someone that they're attracted to, and they fail to recognize it's not that it wasn't specifically just the person and their beauty, male or female, that gave you that feeling. It was your spirit telling you it's time for a relationship. That's the other thing. Because I can't tell you I've how many times uh, I have heard from people I've life coached. They've tried to put themselves into relationship mode, believing that they found the one. And a couple, not all of them, a couple of them, only to find themselves getting divorced within a few years of being married. Not because they didn't want to make it work, but because their spirit really didn't want a relationship. Not yet. They weren't ready for that as the part of their journey just yet. Why? Because they rushed into it. Why? Because they try to fulfill what they see everybody else around them do. Why? Because success when it comes to physical life is often linked to the having or not having of a relationship, to having or not having a marriage with someone or being married to someone. That's just the truth. No matter what society or culture we're looking in, a lot of times success in terms of like who you are as a human being is directly linked with, oh, are you married? Why aren't you married yet? And if it's not that, it's linked to what you do and how much money you make. But let me tell you something. You go through enough trauma, you go through experiences that break your heart enough, you're going to realize success is actually linked with who you are as a person, who you are being while you're living. That's what success is for you. Can I sit in my corner like I'm sitting right now? And can I feel peace? Can I feel peace to the point where I share authentic thoughts and wisdom? Can I authentically be myself no matter what setting I'm in? You know, Whoever's watching, I hope you subscribe. I would love for you to subscribe. I'm still starting on this podcast journey. And again, this is, self reflection and cultural awareness right here. I hope you subscribe. I hope you comment. I hope you reach out. Um, if you want to contribute, let me know. I have so much more to share with you. Not just myself talking and sharing wisdom, but also people that I have as guests lined up that it's coming. It takes time. Also, I move much slower in terms of like how I do things, just a little different. I like to give people time to decipher if they want to or don't want to do something. I don't ever force anything. Most of my sit downs, even coaching moments, friendship get togethers, uh, have never been pre planned. Usually it's something that it's It's coordinated, um, but within a few days of happening, you know? Uh, The reason being, I have found that in life, when you pre plan something too ahead of time, no matter what it is, weddings, birthday parties, surprise party, get together, it could be anything. Stuff always goes wrong. Something doesn't work out. I think the only thing that you can pre plan that is really successful is buying tickets for a trip ahead of time because you get them at a better rate. But other than that, I feel like what's meant to happen, what's for you, is going to be for you regardless. So let's bring it back to subscribing. I hope you do because I have more to share and I feel like it'll be definitely helpful for you. And if anything, maybe you like hearing the sound of my voice. Maybe my company makes you feel a little less alone, which is what we need nowadays. Loneliness is another thing that people try to escape from, and that's why they keep themselves so busy. People that overwork or busy, not just with work and career stuff and developing businesses or whatever, they may be busy in terms of social activities. You over socialize. You're getting together with too many different people. You accept invitations from everyone or every different circle. Like, you're going from party to party to party. You're doing that because you're trying to run away from the feeling of loneliness, you know? Um, and yeah, being lonely is not a great feeling, but you're really not lonely. It's a mental perspective. Life is giving you an opportunity to have a relationship with yourself. You're not lonely. You've been given a gift of being able to enjoy a relationship with yourself because you don't deserve to be in a scenario, in a relationship where physically you won't be lonely, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually you will. That's the trade-off, you know? Not all of us come here with the journey of culturally living the exact same steps as everybody else. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you're a person that gets divorced, no matter what age you're in, no matter how long you were married. Divorce is not something to be ashamed of. What we should be ashamed of is promoting the idea of staying in situations and scenarios that spiritually, emotionally, and mentally are not healthy for you anymore. No matter how much you pray about it, how much you ask for even, like, I don't know, spiritual guidance for it, it's not meant for everybody. And that's okay. That's okay. Maybe you are a beam of light that is meant to shine in a specific way for a season. It doesn't mean that other things aren't coming. You know, like, again, like I said, I have found that in my singledom, I have lived a more fulfilling life than when I was in a marriage. And even when I attempted to marry again and I was engaged for a short time, looking back, I have lived more fulfilling experiences after that than when I was engaged. So it's not for everyone. Let's stop putting shame our with our lack of understanding that for some people a season of being alone is a season of solitude, not loneliness. They need solitude for whatever reason. They want to focus on, I don't know, writing a novel, getting their work published, modeling, building a house, building an empire for themselves. Maybe they don't want to build it with a person. They want to do it on their own. They want to do it for themselves because that's just what they want to do. Let's stop tagging along the 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 sign of because they are alone, they're sad, they're lonely. You know, like, oh, you're still single. Like, oh, you're still married. No, I'm not saying that single is the best. I think also, if you're married, appreciate your relationship status. Value your relationship status. Value who you're with, you know? Show respect for who you're with. Okay? Appreciate another person has committed to being there with you, to standing alongside with you. Appreciate that. Be grateful for that. Do not take that for granted, because what you take for granted in this life, life takes away from you. I'll say it again. What you take for granted in this life, life will take away from you. If you take for granted love, care, thoughtfulness, life's going to take that away from you. If there's a person who gives that to you, life's going to take that person away from you. If you take for granted nice things, life will take nice things away from you. If you take for granted being entitled, okay? Entitlement behavior, again, self reflection, cultural awareness. Entitlement behavior, no matter where you are on the planet, what background you have, if you have entitlement behavior, life will take away what makes you feel entitled. If what makes you feel entitled is name brands, good car, who uh, you know, um, how much money you have, all the material things that you show off with, that's what makes you feel entitled, life will take that away from you. Life will take that away from you. Understand that. There's no if, and, or but. It's just a matter of time as into when that will happen, but it will happen. And if life doesn't take that away from you specifically, it'll be a scenario that happens that will make you understand what it is like to lose that. It's just what happened. It's just the because you attract who you are. Entitlement, sense of entitlement, is a mental state of lack mentality. You lack value with yourself, so you act with everyone else as if you're entitled to good behavior. You're entitled to be treated like royalty because you yourself don't feel like royalty. You're insecure. So you need people kissing the ring on your hand or kissing your feet, whatever that is. Well, guess what? Life's going to put you in a position where you got to kiss somebody else's feet. You got to kiss the ring on somebody else's hand. And you got to humble yourself. Humility, okay, is something that self reflection will help you understand is important to your emotional intelligence. Humility. Because humility makes you okay with accepting things as they are, appreciating, tasting an experience the way it is. It doesn't have to be the way you want it. Just because the picture wasn't taken with the angle that you like doesn't mean you shouldn't appreciate that picture for the beautiful moment that was just recorded. Appreciate that you were in it because you could also not be in it. You know what I'm saying? Finally, emotional intelligence development requires practice and feedback. Well, I'm giving you some feedback from some of my experiences, some of them romantic, some of them historical. Um, and I have more, but for right now, I want to tell you practice and feedback. Developing emotional intelligence requires practice and feedback. Actively applying emotional intelligence skills in real life situations, reflecting on outcomes, and seeking feedback from others helps individuals refine their abilities and make adjustments as needed. Now, you can get this by going through therapy. You know, therapy is very good for development of emotional intelligence. Therapy is an excellent way, you know, no one should be ashamed or embarrassed of uh, having therapy, getting therapy, or wanting therapy, you know. Also, applying these skills, not just listening to them, not just reading about them, apply them. Don't be afraid of applying them because applying them will only show the true face of people around you. It will only allow you to understand other people around you for their true face. And then you make the decision if you want them to be around you or if you want to be around them or not. So apply those skills. Apply the concept of I will not allow my energy pattern to change because somebody else is acting stupid with me. Don't change your behavior. Don't change the beautiful person you are, the beautiful, positive, energetic being that you are because somebody else is constantly negative. And when I say this, I'm talking in generality, so I'm not just referring to just friendship, family, or romantic relationships. It could be in any one of those type of relationship patterns. Allow yourself to put into practice being vulnerable. Being vulnerable, just the fact of me having this podcast episode today, I'm being vulnerable because I've already exposed some scenarios of my life that were true, that really happened, to share wisdom on how to develop your emotional intelligence. So there's 8 points, self-awareness, empathy, emotional regulation, social skills, motivation, self-reflection and continuous learning, cultural awareness, practice and feedback. You know, 8 is also considered to be the number of infinity, because when you put it horizontally, it's the infinity symbol. Um, and there were 8 factors that I mentioned. And 8 is also one of my lucky numbers, by the way. I love the number 8. I don't know why. A couple times I was number 8 on the list on the roster for school. Sometimes, my last name starts with the letter B. So there were a couple names with letter A and B, and then it was my name. So I was number 8 sometimes. Um, there's 8 factors to emotional intelligence that I put together, and I wasn't even purposely doing that. It just ended up being 8, and then I realized uh, the number related to the concept of infinity. If you want to achieve an infinite amount of something, it requires you to put these into play that I just mentioned. The infinite amount of something, infinite amount of happiness or joy, abundance. Because I think most of us want to um, have an infinite amount of what's good, right? It requires you to do good. One of my clients asked me, what is the key to having a better life? Please help me figure this out. I can't seem to conjure up a different way of thinking. And I said, you want a better life? And they were like, yes. I desperately want my life to be better. I make, you know, financially I'm set. Professionally I'm great. I love my career. I've traveled. I've done this. There's so many things under their belt, but they just felt like their life wasn't better. Um, I told them after listening to, their self-entitled style life, I said, you want a better life? Be a better person. Give back more. Go beyond yourself. Reflect on how you make other people feel, on how you make others feel. How do you make other people feel? Reflect on that more. Change for the positive how you make others feel. Be aware that not everybody's going to interact with you the way that you interact with people, because not everybody comes from that same background. Not everybody comes from the social setting that you are navigating in. No, they can't accompany you to events that are worth thousands of dollars to get into. They don't make, or even if they do have that money, they don't want to spend it on that because they have other responsibilities. So if you want them maybe to participate with you, be a little bit more generous maybe. And what do you do to give back to others? Life has been so generous with you. Are you doing anything to give back to anyone? To have a better life, you need to be a better person. To be a better person, you need to appreciate what life is giving you. You need to be grateful for it. And gratitude is expressed not by words, but by action. You express gratitude by, yes, giving back. Oh, but when people do stuff, they shouldn't expect expectations. Again, it's not about fulfilling other people's expectations. It's about showing that you are grateful. Gratitude is something, or generosity is something that it's not in one act, it should be a constant attitude of actions. People struggle with that because if you don't get what you want, why am I going to do anything? I'll do this if they do that. I'll be this way if they do that. I will celebrate them if they did this. I would treat them like a king or queen if they treated me like a king or queen. Excuse me, what kind of mental setting do you see for yourself in your energetic field? You determine that. You're giving other people the power to determine that for you. So you're basically saying you're powerless to change the life you have. If you want to be treated like a king, then act like one. You want to be treated like a queen? Act like one. Benevolence is one of the number one characteristics of being king or queen. You have to be benevolent. And if you don't know what that means, I urge you to look it up. Be benevolent. That means you're able to apply kindness, generosity, compassion, understanding with both sides. No matter who's wrong or right, you do it for both sides. You're able to be neutral emotionally so that you can make a decision rationally. All of that encompasses the definition of benevolence. So you want to be treated like a queen? Are you benevolent? Want to be treated like a king? Are you benevolent? And again, this is going to take us right back to why emotional intelligence is important. A lot of people will say, "No, I'm not going to be that way. I'm going to appear weak. Why am I going to show that I care? Why am I going to be A, B, or C nice? I'm only going to seem like I'm weak and they'll take advantage." You know what? People can only take advantage of you for as long as you allow them to. So if you're confident that you are one that is strong enough to walk away from a taking advantage scenario, then you are equally strong enough to be benevolent because you know that you can make the decision to walk away if you feel taken advantage of, or if you get to the point of like you've had enough. That's the other thing. So it's not I'm going to appear weak if I do this. It's I'm going to do this with the knowledge of if I don't like it or something's not right, I'm still going to walk away. Because your cup doesn't come or your cup doesn't get filled from that individual or from that relationship. Your cup gets filled from other things in your life. You have other things fulfilling your life. And let's not forget spiritually, you see your identity in something greater than that already. So it doesn't matter if a person disappoints you, if a relationship breaks your heart, that won't matter. Your identity doesn't come from that. Your identity doesn't come from relationships. Your identity doesn't come from how your family sees you. Your identity comes from what created you and put you here. Your identity comes from something more divine than that. And if you don't want to go on the spiritual route for that understanding, let's just think about it in terms of like scientific perspective. Your identity comes from stardust. You were made by atomic matter that lives in outer space that makes the beautiful galaxies. That's you. Your identity comes from that. So why are you going to give power to dust when your identity comes from something that is beyond the sky? Do you see? Something so much higher. It's higher than the atmosphere. Again, I hope this was helpful. I hope that if you enjoyed this, you subscribe. I hope that you like this topic. And if you have something to comment, please do. Now, of course, even though I took such a long time to say all this, it was like a 2-hour post. There's so much more that can be said about each nugget that I shared. That moving forward, I will take time to, you know, disclose more with you, to expand on it more. Because emotional intelligence is not only key to your mental health, it's also key for your spiritual development so that you can connect the two. because your mental health not only is linked to how you feel emotionally about life, it's also linked to how you feel spiritually about life. So all of these components are like, there's three of them, trifecta: emotional intelligence, spiritual development, and mental health. So even if we don't want to look at it from a religious perspective, science itself, psychology itself, has the trifecta of how they're connected. So no matter how we look at it, no matter how we slice it, everything helps. Everything works for the good. Everything works for the benefit of your positive development. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Love Tribe. I hope you've enjoyed time with me in my sacred space, my sacred place. It has now become nighttime. The sun has set. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in, for coming this far and listening to everything. I love you. I love you for being here. I love you for listening. And I love you for taking the consideration of clicking on this video and staying all of this time with me. And I look forward to so much more. And just remember, your value is never determined by what others think or say or feel about you. Your value is determined by something that is beyond the atmosphere. Thanks so much. Have a great one. And don't forget to check the details on this video for some more information. And if you want to contribute, if you want to donate to my channel, feel free to do so. And if not, I love you regardless. And I'm so grateful you're here. Peace.